Hi folks, it's Richard from Inclusive Driving. Sorry about the lighting, it is night time. So I want to dispel a myth that keeps coming up whenever I talk about fuel efficient driving. We know, we've demonstrated this in a previous video, that driving at 70 miles an hour uses somewhere around 30% more fuel than driving at 50 miles an hour. Let me push my seat back so I can get a bit more in the camera. And a common response to that is where people will say, but my car is more fuel efficient at 70 miles an hour because I can change to a higher gear and my revs are lower. Well, it is true that you can use a higher gear and that your revs will be lower, but that's completely ignoring how much fuel is needed to achieve those revs and that gear at that speed. It's not a valid argument. Let me give you an analogy to help you understand it. Imagine you are walking. You're walking on a calm summer's day, and just for the sake of argument, keep the numbers simple, you are walking at 100 steps per minute. Now that's going to use a certain amount of energy. Energy is fuel, petrol, diesel, or food in the case of humans when we're walking. So 100 steps a minute on a calm summer's day, maybe that uses 1 Mars bar per hour or something like that. Now imagine you are walking into a 50 mile an hour gale force headwind. Okay. You might still be able to achieve 100 steps a minute, but it's going to use more energy to achieve that. You can't possibly say, I'm still marching at 100 steps a minute, so I'm using the same amount of energy. It's not the case. You are battling against additional wind now, aren't you? And it's quite likely that if you're marching into that 50 mile an hour gale force wind, you probably won't achieve 100 steps a minute. Your revs will be lower. So now imagine you're walking into a 70 mile an hour headwind. Again, you may be able to keep at 100 steps a minute, I doubt it, but even so, you are still using more energy to battle into that headwind. Now this is the fact. This is the key. When you are driving, you are creating the headwind. Instead of the wind blowing on you when you're walking, you are driving into air. Okay, so the faster you go, the more air resistance you have to overcome. And let's just get boring with physics for a moment. Air resistance is proportional to the square of your velocity. Now this means if you double your speed, you're not doubling the air resistance, you are quadrupling the air resistance. So there's a massive increase in air resistance. Okay, so just because you can achieve lower revs by using a higher gear, you are still going to be using more fuel by driving at 70 miles an hour compared to 50 miles an hour. Well, that's all for now, and we'll see you on another video very soon.